Good evening and welcome to CanHammer, your stop for AOS and 40k from the Great White North. Today's show is episode 117. It is going to be a combination of 40k and Age of Sigmar show. We're going to talk all about the Eldar book, because there's actually not a lot to talk about for that, but there's a lot to talk about for that, so we'll see where it takes us. And we're also going to talk about an Age of Sigmar tournament that we played in last weekend and just some of the cool things that we discovered, because we played several of the newer, I guess, factions. And so we'll let you guys know how that went. As usual, I am your host, Chris, at CanHammer Chris on Twitter, and I'm joined by my co-host, Mr.
Darren, at CanHammer _YT on Instagram.
Yep. And then we have a special guest joining us. He's a longtime Eldar player. He was on the podcast a few episodes ago for our bonus tournament report. We have...
Jason. Hello. I don't have any Twitter or anything like that, unfortunately, but yeah, pretty involved with it.
Yeah, so he's not really a social media guy. So if you have any hate and you want to direct it towards him, you have to direct it towards me, and then I'll deflect it towards him.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So if you're listening for the first time, this is our weekly/bi-weekly kind of Warhammer Age of Sigmar, now Shadespire a little bit, hopefully, talk show where we just get into like what we've been up to in the hobby, what's going on in Eastern Ontario. We answer some questions, and we kind of just see where it takes us. So we're going to start off with shoutouts and patrons. So the first shoutout we have one of our followers, Alex, from Phoenix, Arizona. He sent us a nice tweet, asked a question for the end of the show, so I just thought I'd give him a plug because, you know, he gave us a nice shout-out. And I also want to give a shout-out to Garage Hammer again. Those guys are doing a fantastic job. They just did a really in-depth Shadespire, like, lore to kind of rules, but mostly on the lore and the background and all the different crews. And it was like a really good listen that I was actually really upset when it ended because I wanted more. But so check out those guys, Garage Hammer.
Yeah, it was a good episode.
Oh, man, that one was like awesome. Yeah, because I'm not the type of guy to read the Shadespire fluff, and then they went into it, and they kind of give a little bit of, you know, their take on it and some of the other background because they're well-versed in the lore. So check them out. Now I'm going to hand over to Darren to pay the bills.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank our sponsors. So we got Martin at War Games in the UK. Now, I have to make a correction. Last time I said his website was www.wargamesco.co.uk. But in fact, that's incorrect. It's www.wargamesuk.co.uk. Mm-hmm. So please, if you're one of our European listeners, or even if you're not, head on over to his website or into his store in Liverpool and buy lots of stuff because he helps support the channel and helps us out.
Yeah, he also does a lot of cool things. There's a few little YouTube videos on the Facebook page and whatnot, and he sponsors Scarredcast, who is another YouTuber from, he's in more northern Ontario than eastern, but it's like kind of north-middle Ontario. Anyway, he's also part of the network, so check them out as well.
Yeah, so the network is growing, the War Games Network. It also includes Basement Collective now and a number of the British YouTube channels. And there's big stuff coming from this collaboration, so stay tuned. Can't announce anything right now, but there's big stuff coming.
So if Basement Collective joined, can we now unjoin? Because they're our rivals. So how can we be on the same organization as our rivals? Calling you out, Basement Collective. Actually, they're supposed to be on the show before the new year, so we'll get them on and we'll talk a bunch of smack. So see how that goes. Okay, what's our other sponsor?
Other sponsors, of course, Dylan at Multizone over the river in Gatineau. Big supporter of the channel. All our tournaments run there, and gives everybody who uses CanHammer as a discount code a 15% off. So if you order off his website, multizone.ca. So thanks a lot to Dylan.
Yep, and our last one will be Sequence Comics in Brockville, Ontario, and go check them out if you're in the area. Basically between Kingston and Cornwall / Montreal. So if you're there, stop in, get some paints and stuff. Jason frequents there a lot, right, buddy?
Oh yeah, he's always good. He's always great to order things in. He can order it in right away, and also gives a decent discount as well.
Right on. Okay, so that should keep the lights on for another couple weeks. Just kidding, we're fine. And I'm going to go on to news and rumors. So the first thing that we want to talk about is Shadespire. So 2 new crews came out, right, Darren? We'll take it away.
Yeah, so they came out last weekend. There are already unboxings and reviews on the YouTube channel if people want to check that out. And I've already played a bunch of games with them, and yeah, they're pretty sweet.
So, which crew's your favorite? Like, so there's the two crews. There's the orcs, and then there's the undead. What are their names? What's the proper names? So it's
Sepulchral Guard.
Good that you took that one.
Iron Skull's boys.
Yeah, so they're pretty solid. Which crew do you like the most?
So I'm playing the undead right now, since I play Death and Sigmar, and so I'm just kind of trying to learn the ins and outs, the best way to play these guys. There's a lot of different ways you can play them, and just trying to figure out what the best way. Funnily enough, so they had the Blood and Glory tournament in the UK, and that was attended by Games Workshop, and they actually had probably the world's first Shadespire tournament.
Well, was it? So we got to redact that. It wasn't the first. It was the first big one. I guess there were lots of there's lots of people always say that we're the biggest in Canada, or we're the first, and there's always tons of little store tournaments that probably beat it, but it was the first big one. Yeah, I just don't want to piss off somebody that ran a little store tournament.
The good thing about it is it's like a classic card game tournament with prize support from GW, so alternative rare art cards and acrylic markers and tokens and stuff as prize support. It's really cool.
Limited edition stuff drives me crazy.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, I was in GW today buying some paints, and the Joanne there in the store had these little things set off to the side, and I had a look at them, and they were alternative art for the two starter warbands, so the Steelhearts and the Garrix Reavers, alternative character card art.
Well, if it's only art, that's okay, but if it's rules or cool stuff.
Oh, not rules. Yeah, it'll just be alternative art. But I said, "What's these?" And she's like, "Oh, these were supposed to be for people who pre-ordered through the store." She had a whole bunch of them. So she's going to be actually running a tournament in January, and that's going to be part of the prize sport, sort of official GW prize sport.
I'll check that out. So that's Games Workshop in Ottawa.
Yeah, that's right.
Cool. So one thing that I want to talk about is we talked last show, and Darren wasn't too sure, but I said that you need to buy all the sets to get all the cards, and you did confirm that. So I just want to reiterate that when you're getting into Shadespire, there's a couple things that might not rub people the wrong way, but that you should be aware of before purchasing it. And that is, you cannot buy an expansion pack without the base game. So everybody needs a copy of the base game, period. Well, I guess if your buddy has one, you could probably get away with it. But you're definitely going to have not enough cards, and you're definitely not going to have a board and some dice. So even just buying an expansion pack and a dice pack won't be enough to really play the game. And then the expansions actually have common cards that are good and available for all factions. So it is for sure confirmed, and I was 99% sure when I said it last show, but it's confirmed that if you're going to be very competitive, you are going to have to buy every expansion. But that being said, you can buy every Shadespire product available for under 200 Canadian, and that includes a bunch of frivolous stuff that you don't actually need, like card sleeves and 5 sets of dice. If you're stupid like me and you want all the colors of dice, you could do it, but you don't have to.
Yeah. So for sure, it's kind of taken on the sort of live and card game thing, where if you want to get the best out of your warband, you're going to want cards from all the different sets and mix and match. So that's for sure a thing.
And
if you're just going to play, if you're just going to play one band with your buddy in the basement, and it's the same person you're playing, you could just split a starter set because you just need 2 boards. But I
still wouldn't recommend that. I would recommend if the two you're going to play it, you both get a starter set, and then you can each buy an additional crew if you want one or if you don't. But I think having a board and the base cards is a necessity. That's but of course you could split it. You'll end up buying a second set anyway and splitting the rest. But that's what they said on Garage Hammer, and I completely agreed with them. So I don't want to steal any thunder. But so Jason, you don't want to play Shadespire, and I thought it'd be good to get your perspective on that. Why not?
Well, I just haven't really got into it yet. I do really like game playing with models and having that dice rolling with it. Now, when you add in cards to it, it does add a different component to it. It's not just like casting spells or anything, but it's more turns in a little bit of more of a deck building. So it mixes in deck building with modeling. And when I'm going to play this game, I prefer just to keep it with models. And if I want to play a deck building game, I could go to Magic the Gathering and just play that. Like, they have a lot of different cards, a lot of different ways to play it, and several ways you can build a deck. And I'd rather, just me personally, I'd rather not mix the two. I'd like to just keep them separate because they're both very different.
Yeah, you used Magic the Gathering as an example, and I think it was a poor example. But that's mainly
Sure.
because Magic is going to cost you more in the first month than than a starter set and a crew. So I would compare it more to something like X-Wing or Netrunner, where the starter set's like $40-50, and then you do need to buy every ship as they come out just for the cards. So
Yeah.
But you're right. Like if you're like, it's like when Age of Sigmar came out, a lot of the 8th edition fantasy players said, like, it was a quote from Hengel, who's one of the California players. He doesn't play at all anymore. He doesn't listen, and probably none of his crew does, so he won't even know we're talking about him. But he said, like, Age of Sigmar is a skirmish game. He said, the reason I'm not getting into it is because, he's like, I'll play it, but I played 8th edition fantasy because it was a regimented, like, ranked up unit game, and then when I switched over to Age of Sigmar, it's a skirmish game, and so I don't know if that's the best skirmish game. Warhammer Fantasy was the best ranked up regiment game. So it's kind of, I guess, the same thing. Like, if you're like, oh, I want to play a deck builder miniature game, there is way more of them available. Like, you got Attack Wing, you got the Dungeons and Dragon ones, you got X-Wing, you got... So I could understand where somebody's like, yo, I want to know which one's the best one, I'm going to play that. I happen to... I've gotten into X-Wing a little bit, and Attack Wing I liked a lot. But this one, so far to me, is the best deck building miniature game I've ever played. And I think it's because it's quick, it's easy, and it feels a lot cheaper. And the models being unpainted, to me, is a huge plus. I'd actually rather just play with plastic green models than pre-painted figs. And the only game that had decent pre-painted figs was X-Wing. So...
Yeah, I think this is a natural extension for GW to try and come out of the purely miniature-based gaming zone. I think it would have been weird if they just came out straight with just a card game. You know, that would have been weird, and that would have been treading.
Good. Nobody would.
No,
like they've done it. They've brought out board games, and they've had Fantasy Flight did a bunch of GW themed card games, and you know, and I've heard a lot of complaints like their board games. When they rehost an old board game that was maybe played for many years, it does seems to do well. But when they like re-release, like, or they make a new game like Gore Chosen or any of those, they just seem to not do well. Like they're just not.
Those just
kind
of seemed like model vehicles, you know, to sell more models. But
whereas this feels like a real game, a real separate game. So.
Yeah, it does, and to me anyway, contrary to Jason's point, is that's adding the deck building is what actually makes it interesting for me. If it was just another board game with miniatures, well, I might as well just play 40K.
That's what I'm saying. I wouldn't play at all. Yeah.
Yeah. But you know, everybody likes different things.
Yeah. So you've played a few games, Darren. Do you want to just very not like go through them, but quickly like what your crews were and how some things went?
Yeah, so I played a bunch of games with Phil, and some bat rep went out today, and another bat rep will go out tomorrow. Well, I'm calling them game reps now to make them different. But so we started off just playing the starter set. I played both the Steelhearts and the Garrix Reavers a couple of times, and then now I've just been playing the Sepulchre Guard a few times. And I do like the. You know, I didn't think I'd like the sort of Steelhearts way they played, but I enjoyed that more than the Garrix Reavers, the style of play.
Yeah, because the Reavers, it's like you either have to kill enemies or lose guys to get off some of your abilities early, and I don't like that because I'm not really a fan of like throwing away models to death, but.
Yeah, so I'm kind of liking the Sepulchre Guard because you can kind of throw some models away, but then they come back. And then it's just trying to figure out whether it's better to play objective or a little bit aggressive or defensive. I mean, there's so many ways to play them. So it's really kind of fun kind of working that out.
Cool. So you won both your games?
No, I lost. Phil's a bit of a card game savant, so he's been kicking my butt.
I could see that. I could see him being a good card game player.
Oh, he plays like Magic till 4 a.m. every Friday, apparently.
Really? I would have never guessed that. Because he says he doesn't have time for Warhammer sometimes, so that means the Magic's got to go anyway. Cool. So let's move on then. So we'll move on to some 40K news. What's come out there, Darren?
So Tyrannid's coming out, at the time of this recording in 3 days, and that's got a lot of people excited. It looks to be a pretty good release, actually. I think it's going to be good for Tyrannids. I don't know if it's going to make them top, but... and then the next, some rumors, well, not rumors, they confirmed that Sigmar is changing in the new year to I guess we're talking 40K, but anyway, Sigmar's changing. They changed the appearance of the logo, the Sigmar logo. It's now like kind of undead-y. And they already leaked that a new undead guy was coming out after Christmas. So hopefully we're going to see some Sigmar. Is this like a
temporary thing?
I don't know. Maybe just a campaign or something. I don't know.
Yeah, well, because they're in Shadespire, it's heavily fluff-wise focused towards Nagash and undead. Yeah. So I could definitely see them moving in that direction and flushing out some of those ranges more, because I think the current focus on the Stormcasts leaves a little bit too much, I guess, of the universe undiscovered and uncovered.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I'm hoping it's not like, I don't want to like rebrand. I don't want everything like rebranded, if that's what you're getting at. But if they're releasing some undead kind of next level, that's cool.
Yeah, I think they will. 40K wise, the next books will be Dark Angels and Blood Angels. Yay!
So we both got to be happy. Well, you're both Dark Angel player. You don't give a shit about Blood Angels, Darren. I saw you posting, trolling people on the competitive chat about that.
But and then of course there's the requisite rumors about the Lion coming back, and who knows. But
so there were some leaked Lion stats that turned out to be fake, right?
Well, nobody knows they're fake for sure, but they probably are. But people are only saying they're fake on the premise that every other Primarch release has been hyped up for a bunch of time.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty true.
You know, there's a few things that point to something happening involving Dark Angels. The Dark Angels book was recently released. Can't remember what it's called. Then they've got the Regimental Standard today talking about Pythos, which involved the Dark Angels. Yeah. Anyway,
that's gonna be cool. That's gonna be cool because Dark Angels definitely need an update, because they are falling behind the Marines a little bit. And then the Blood Angels really desperately need an update. They got some cool stuff. Like, they got some Dante combos that work and stuff. But they definitely need to step their game up to compete with the Marines, right? Because you don't want to have Marines that suck so that everybody's using their Blood Angels as Ultramarines.
Well, there's rumors that Chapter Approved is going to have rules for Space Wolves. So that might indicate that Space Wolves not getting their Codex anytime soon.
Or ever.
Maybe to be squatted.
Yeah, who knows?
The book I'm reading right now, Fenris is in trouble, so maybe the Space Wolves are gone. I don't know.
So there is one thing I want to talk about, because it's been really funny to watch online, is they have the miniature handle. I think we alluded to this. It came out. Yeah. It's $10, so it's actually quite cheap. I thought it was going to be much more, because I think you're going to need 5 or 6 maybe if you're doing a unit at a time. And so everybody's coming on. They look like a butt plug. and then there's all these posts of another butt plug post, and it's just hilarity just to watch the people that are angry about all the constant childish butt plug posts, and then all the people that are angry because the people are childish over them being it's just hilarious. That's big cycle.
I think I'm gonna buy one and see what it's like.
Oh, I'm definitely getting one. If Sequence has one in this weekend when I'm there for the little AOS tournament, I'm definitely picking one up just to see. But I usually paint in batches of 60 models, so I probably don't have a use for it. I'm a good from far painter, not a up close style, because I like to get stuff done because I play too many tournaments. But it's pretty solid. Yeah. And so that was kind of the big haha on Twitter thing. But anything else coming?
Yeah. So they already announced that after Christmas is going to be Chaos Demons.
That's speaking my language, bud.
Oh, you're speaking my language. So that's going to be after Christmas. And then, of course, Necromunda's coming out in a few weeks. I think that's their big Christmas box game. They've announced a whole bunch of paint bundles. You can buy their whole range for $1,200.
Yeah, and they also they redesigned them, because they used to come in the old GW cases, and now they come in the new case, and they have these plastic trays to hold them in, which is kind of interesting. We'll see what the quality's like. And
there's a new painting mat, and there's a new water cup with little slots to put your brush in. And there's that great video.
That's not new. That's old.
Oh well, they bring it out for Christmas.
I know they're bringing it out again, but that's come out before.
There's this funny video of Duncan online drinking from a paint mug.
Oh. Yeah, because I guess funny. Now that their water cup comes out, you can use your mug for actual coffee instead of... That's kind of interesting. And actually that plastic one's excellent, because you can put the brushes in the in it, and then they go in the water. It's hard to explain. So the brushes are in the water, but they're not touching the bottom of the cup. So you can actually have 5 or 6 brushes on the go, kind of sitting in your water, going back and forth if you don't want to really clean them really well. Yep. So it's pretty cool. And then is there any more news and new releases?
I think that's it. Until the line comes out, I think that's it.
So what's been new with you then, Darren? You've been hobbying away last week?
Oh yeah, usual stuff. You know me. I'm always up to no good.
Yeah. So there's this new thing I want to talk about, and I saw it on Twitter, and basically what it is if you hobby for 30 minutes a day minimum, you can obviously hobby for way more than that. Then you basically tweet a picture of it or Instagram a picture of it, or I guess you could even Facebook post a picture of it. And then what you do is for every consecutive day that you do 30 minutes of hobby, you kind of add that to the hashtag on the on your post. And so if you miss a day, you have to restart at 1. And so the hashtag is hobby streak day, and then the number. So you would be like, and this comes from Mr. Tuminous 1987 on Twitter, at Mr. Tuminous 1987. I just saw his post and I really liked it as a way to motivate me to paint on like a Friday night when I'm tired, just to get because 30 minutes is easy to find in a day. And so so I'll run through the rules a little bit. So it's at least 30 minutes of hobby each day. You have to take a pic of your daily activity. You use the hashtag hobby streak day and then whatever day you're at. And then you just build up a personal best on your hobby streak, and it resets if you miss it. And you just try to beat your personal best and chip away at current projects or do whatever you want. And so the goal of this is that it'll just get people to tweet more and to post more regularly about their hobby progress, which will be good for anybody that follows, anybody on Twitter or Instagram. And so I'm planning on doing this. I started today. I made sure before the cast to get down and do 30 minutes of hobby before recording to make sure that I could do this. So check it out. Hobby Streak Day 1. You think you're going to do it, Darren?
I don't need to do it. I already do it.
I know, but I think you should try. I think you should try. There's a few days you miss. There's a few days.
I'm a hobby streak like 400. So.
You're definitely not at 400.
Yeah. I don't need that to motivate me to hobby. I love hobbying.
But you should. Okay, so you don't have to do it. But anyway. Well, I'm going to try it out anyway, Darren, so you don't need to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's it. So Darren, continue with your hobby, and you don't have to do a streak, so you can leave us alone.
Yeah, I've been finishing off my army for P&P. I actually bought myself a fine white Sharpie, and I've been putting catechin markings on my vehicles. Yeah,
it looks good. I like it.
Yeah, so I don't know how I came up with this idea. I just etch it in the white Sharpie, and then I scratch it out with my little mold line remover, and then I wash it with whatever, non-oil or Agrax, and it kind of looks kind of cool.
Like graffiti, kind of like somebody took a spray can and just kind of.
Yeah, I was gonna put the decals on, but it's just a little bit too
decals.
Yeah, it's too formal for me, and I thought this looked cooler. For the
you can tell. You can tell when somebody puts decals on. I'm saying decals. I know that drives people nuts, but I like the word decals. Yeah. Anyway, when you put the decals on, you really have to treat it and varnish it, and then dull coat it, and you have to weather them, or else they definitely stick out from a distance that they're decals or decals.
Yeah. So they looked okay. They did fine for my Dark Angels. They're not weathered or anything, but on these grimy guard tanks, it looks. I think I like the way that I've done it for the Lucky Catechin 188. So I was just messing around with that, and I've painted 5 Primaire Psychers, all different color robes.
Yeah, I don't know why. Why would you need 5? But
so they're ready to go. They're ready to go, and then now I started on heavy mortar teams. And then that army will be done. And just today, because we had such nice weather today, I sprayed Nick's Orc army all up, ready to go. Did 1.5 cans of Averlin Sunset spray.
It's a bit crazy.
So it's ready to go. Next step will be I'll probably wash it, and then I'll probably airbrush it.
So, Jason, any hobby progress the last week or so?
Well, the last week... I guess I was working on the Age of Sigmar stuff to get that sorted out. Built up that Lord of Change. Got Fate Weaver done, and then built some more Brimstone Horrors.
That's always good. You always need more brims.
Yeah.
I bought
Yeah,
30
and then
brims, and I got like hate on Twitter for buying so many brims. What the hell do you need more brims for?
Really?
I'm like, you can't have too many brims. You honestly can't.
Yeah, it's really tough. They are really good. They're so cheap right now with the 4-bin Vuln save. They're really worth it. So I've been building those, and I've been also been doing some Toroxes because I want to play with an army like that for a bit, Military Tempestus, and just really try those out. I haven't really seen them too much, especially in the Ottawa area. So I'd like to give them a go.
Yeah, I think there's not a lot in Ottawa, but we saw a few
still got
BTC,
4.
But yeah.
I got 4 on my shelf waiting for paint.
Why don't you just mail them to Jason so that he can have a bigger army?
Yeah. You want to mail mine, Jason? You want to paint mine for
I kind of went crazy, and I'm pretty sure I have 16.
16 Toro?
So, yeah. So I got half of them built now. Yeah, so I've been running a few lists and getting them up to about 10. And when you put them with the Stormbolter, with the Hotshot Laz, and with the Gatling on it, you're pumping out 30 shots at 24-inch range.
For 97 points, right?
Yeah, 94. For 97 points.
97, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it's that's a they're strength 4, but that's a lot of firepower hitting on 3s.
Mm-hmm. So like a lot of people listening, we're just the 3 of us are pretty ridiculous with stuff like that. Like when we get an idea, we just go nuts and we just order way too many. As I look at all my
I don't do that. No.
Oh, you're the worst. You're the worst. Okay, so I guess if that's it for Jason's hobby, we'll talk about his Age of Sigmar army in a minute. We'll go on to what I've been doing. I just basically built the 2 Age of Sigmar crews, and I've been working on my Fire Slayers because we played in a tournament, so I wanted to get them base coated. And then I have another tournament this weekend of 1,000 points, so I'm trying to get them at least started. But when it's 150 naked dwarves with runes on them, it's actually a lot of effort to get them done.
Yeah, man.
But I did take a break to build my because I'm supposed to be playing Shadowspire this Friday with a few guys from work actually want to get into it because of the deck building and the fact that it's a low model count. So I did purchase like tons of extra dice to get everything ready to go, and I was building those 2 crews just in case that actually materializes this Friday. So cool. So I guess we're gonna move on. I want to talk. We have Jason on, and so he's a longtime Eldar player, but he's also somewhat new into Age of Sigmar. And we played in a tournament. We just want to go over some of our lists and our thoughts on them, and just a little bit, just to see how it goes. I know if you're not interested in Age of Sigmar, well, it is what it is. It's a lot of fun. You should check it out. So this tournament was at the Plastic Krack Studios in Ottawa, which is he newly renovated it. It's Nick basically owns Plastic Krack, and he's a painting service, and he also wanted to have a gaming space, so he renovated to have a little gaming space. He wanted to run a tournament, which was capped at 6 people, so it sold out like instantly.
Was that all his own scenery?
No, it was a combination of his and Jason's.
Okay.
Because
he does have 2 of those super nice new tables, the metallic one and the lava one, and then the Demon World one was mine.
Okay, yeah, it looked pretty cool.
Yeah, it was really like 3 really nice tables. There was no painting standard, but most armies were actually fully painted except for Jason's. And mine.
Because of 64 oxes.
And mine. Well, no, it was Age of Sigmar. Come on, Darren. You're not even listening.
I know, but he was too busy building thoraxes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, too busy.
So, it was kind of weird. There was 4 demon armies. We had Will Paul playing as Nurgle Demons, which was just basically the Forge World Great Unclean one. We let him use that in the Taliban. I'm not sure if that's kosher or not, but I was like, that's okay. And then we had Caradron Overlords, which is Plastic Krack Nick played, and his army looks really nice. They were at Capital City Bloodbath as well.
They won Best Painted, didn't they?
They won one of the painted awards. I can't remember which one off the top of my head. And then we had Ryan Pippy was there. He was playing his Chaos. Well, it was actually my Chaos army combined with his. He sent me an email. He's like, I have some corn dogs and I have some bloodletters. And I said, okay. And I looked at my shelf. I was like, I have all this corn stuff. And we made like an okay list, like a rush list with just kind of in your face, a lot of skull crushers and things like that. And then Jason, what'd you play?
So I ran with Disciples of Tzeentch. I know you like to pronounce that word differently, but that's how I'm going to do it.
It's Disciples of Tiznatch.
There you go. Thank you, Chris. So I started collecting some demons with with the Liberius Conclave, because in 7th edition, and you were able to summon demons. So I was like, all right, you know what? I really don't need too many more demons to make this Age of Sigmar army. So what I did is I ran Fate Weaver.
Just almost stop for a second. That's a funny progression that it was like, because we talked about this in the Quebec City one. He's like, you basically bought some demons to summon, and then that turned into a 40k demon army. And then you're like, oh, I need, like 2 Lord of Changes, and it's now an Age of Sigmar army. So that's kind of neat that you got that much, I guess, use out of those models that were a while ago kind of like a waste on your shelf.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a weird progression, but I was kind of getting rid of some of my other armies from Warhammer Fantasy, and so I was like, okay, let's start new. Let's get a couple different ones in here. So I just figured it was a decent one. They're the same base size. I can use them for either gaming system. So I had Fate Weaver. I had a Lord of Change. For my battle line, I had a unit of 30 pinks, another unit of 30 pink horrors, and then a unit of 10 pink horrors. And then I ran a unit of 30 brimstones, 10 brimstones, 10 brimstones. And then for a couple of the heroes, I had a Gaunt Summoner who I really like. So I'll just say this now. His spell, it casts on a unit within 18 inches, and all models in that unit within the 18 inches on a 4-up take a mortal wound. So if you're going up against a horde army, it's phenomenal. Like there's a few times when I cast it on units of 30, and on average you're doing 15 mortal wounds.
Yeah, that's gross.
Which is nuts. So if anyone wants to come and attack me in combat, I'm like, absolutely, bring it on. This guy's not going to finish everything for me, but he definitely helps. So then I also took a Herald. It was just the which Herald was that now?
Tzeentch Herald on foot, wasn't it?
Yeah, just because I liked his spell. Because it's weird, because the guy on disc has a different spell than the one on foot. So just the way it worked, I wanted the one on foot. And then I ran a Blue Scribe. So the Blue Scribe also had a decent spell that on a 4+, all Tzeentch wizards are allowed to reroll failed casting attempts.
That's pretty good.
And that was it. Yeah.
It's worth it. Because actually, against me, you failed a ton of spells, and then that saved your behind a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I found that for the most part, with all their spells, they end up doing, like, I'd say between 15 and 25 mortal wounds, depend on if you have saves and how I'm rolling.
Yeah. No, I agree. So. I think, like, Disciples of Tzeentch is, like, the amount of mortal wound output is crazy good. Now, you didn't run a change host. Why not?
No. Yeah, so the change host went up. It's 160 points now. I just wanted to run with a few more models. Looking at it in a few scenarios that we had, it definitely would have helped me out. So I'm probably going to try running that in the next one, just dropping down maybe a unit of 30 pinks to 10 pinks. And then I should be able to fit that in there, because that'll leave me free up 180 points.
Yeah. Okay.
So
that's cool. So just like quickly, who'd you play round 1?
I played Ryan. And with the Corn Demons. Okay. So this was one of the things where he kind of had to charge at me, and then it kind of put me in this bubble of, hey, you know those your like 500 point unit of 30 models? Well, I just killed half of them in one turn. And then next turn it's like, okay, now you're down to like 7 of them out of the 30.
Yeah, he kind of done goofed in that, like, I think he should have stayed 19 inches away from your casters turn 1, like bumped up. And then tried for So, yeah, we talked about that after the game. So that's one thing when you're playing Disciples of Tzeentch. If they don't have the change host anyway, like, just stay out of 18. Just stay out of 18. There's no reason to go in 18 unless you're definitely actually completing that charge and getting in there, and you're going to do enough damage to matter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then I should say with the Destiny dice, that's crazy. Like, just to have that dice where you're like, you know what? Okay, you just killed 15 out of my 30 models, so I'm going to lose D6 plus 5. Well, I'm just going to use this one, and now I bring back D6 models.
Yeah, that's gross.
Crazy.
So the Destiny dice, just go quickly through that, what those are for people.
So the Destiny dice is, once you're set up, but before you roll to goes first or anything, you take 9 dice, you roll them. You keep them whatever numbers they are, you set them aside. And then it tells you exactly what those dice can be used for, which is like your charge distance, to hit rolls, save rolls, mortal wound damage, battle shock, a lot of different options like that. So you have a lot of versatility. So ideally you want to roll 1s and 4s and up. So let's say if you got to get a good spell off, you're like, you know what, I'm just going to use these 2 5s. I cast my spell with a 10. oh, I need to do 6 mortal wounds to that unit, you just take a 6 and you just do it.
Yeah, it's so good. That's one of the
it's
best.
really strong.
It's one of the most powerful mechanics in the game. Just being able
There's
to be
too
like,
many.
What do you mean?
Too many dice. 9 is too many.
Well, yeah, like it might be, and there's ways to get it back. Like there's a spell you can cast where you get a free die back. But like in my opinion, like I almost don't care what the dice are. I just don't want the ones actually scare me the most, which might sound a little bit silly, but that basically being able to automatically pass all your battle shock and actually get D6 models back is like infuriating, right? So
yeah.
That's cool. Okay, so you played Ryan round 1. Who'd you play? I guess I should go through my list before we go in. So I took my Fire Slayers. It was my first time at a tournament with them, I guess. It's a little RTT anyway. We'll call it tournament. And I went for kind of a little crazy list. I went for basically just 4 units of 30 Volkite Berserkers with double axes. I chose the double axes. A lot of people prefer the shields and the picks. And this is up for debate. I might be the only one that prefers the axes. But, so what the shields do is when you charge, you throw them, and on a 6 you do a mortal wound. But you only have 30 guys, so you charge the unit, you do that, you get like 4 mortal wounds, which is pretty good. And then the picks are 4+4+, -1 rend, 2 attacks. So it again sounds good. But the axes rerolled a hit, and they have 2 attacks, and it's 4+3+. So if you do the math, if you only get 10 of your guys in combat, the picks with shields win the first round of combat. They do like 1 or 2 extra wounds, some mortal wounds. It's actually pretty substantial when they charge. But then the double axes do slightly less damage, but then the next turn they do more damage. So they kind of even out over 2 turns. So it kind of depends what you want. And I find that I'm more interested in grinding things out over the long term with my Fire Slayers. So that's why I like the double axes over the picks. So I took 4 units of them. 3 of them were in a Kinbad to let them shoot twice if they were within range of their Rune Sun. And then, of course, I put the Rune Sin on a Magma Droth. I gave him the +6 inches to his command ability, and I gave him the command ability of immune to Battle Shock, basically, if I pull it off. And then I took basically 4 Rune Smiters, so I could teleport 4 units. And that's about it. That's 2,000 points. So it's a pretty solid list. It allows me to be very mobile. It allows me to shoot at long range. It allows me to, rend if I need it, do extra damage if I need it. So it worked out pretty good. Round 1, I ended up playing against another Ryan who was playing Tzeentch Demons, who I forgot to talk about. He had 2 Vortex Beasts. And I basically just dropped in his grill and just threw axes and killed his monsters. And then I just covered the objectives. And it went pretty well for the Fire Slayers. Now, it was my first taste of his style of Disciples of Tzeentch. And he actually killed a ton of my stuff coming back. So I was a little bit worried, but I just kept playing the objectives, and it worked out in the end. And then round 2 we played, right, Jason?
Yeah, round 2 we did play. Now, have you gone over how your army deploys, though? Because I think it's very important.
Well, with the Rune Smitters, basically, you take the Rune Smitter. When you deploy him, he takes a unit with him. And then they can deploy anywhere on the board.
Yeah,
9 inches away from the enemy. So, yeah, and it's an 80-point character. So now I'm taking basically like 1,400 points of infantry and deploying it wherever I want, whenever I want in the first 3 turns. Yeah. So I could literally go, if depending on the opponent and the mission, I could say, okay, you can go first. They go first. I don't have to drop my army if I don't want to, or I can, and then transfer the double turn. Or what I could actually do is I could take first turn, deploy nothing, let my opponent go, give them the double turn, and then drop my army and engage them, depending on the mission and the army I'm playing against, obviously. If it's a fast enough army that can cover the board, I don't want to do that. But against like a shooting army like Overlords and stuff, I can almost let him like just not do anything for 2 turns and then hit him up. Yeah. So Jason and I played, but how'd that game go?
Yeah, so we started out, it was the one where there's 2 objectives on the center line, 18 inches in, I believe, from each table edge. So kind of already put me at disadvantage, and our deployment zones were like 12 inches in from either side and 12 inches up. So you're kind of like in this little box in the middle. So we rolled off. You ended up deploying first, so you're able to go first and jump on the objectives. And only heroes can hold the objectives, but I'm limited on my range of spells, and I knew you were going to come in and shoot some things. So I kind of misplayed a little bit with having my pink horrors a little too close, and you're able to shoot them, and you killed a ton of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And you're able to jump those heroes. Yeah, nuts. And you're able to put those heroes on the objectives and start collecting those early on. I mean, by the end of the game, like if the game would have gone on to 7 turns or so, but you're only limited to 5, and it worked out well. You're able to hold the objectives long enough, and I wasn't able to kill enough. I think by the end of it, I killed, 3 of your units pretty much?
Oh, yeah. You did. Well, it was 2 of them were dead. One of them was in combat.
Only had
and
with a couple guys left, not many.
And then, and I had 2 characters left. But we did play wrong because nobody ever wants to play this mission. So I never get to play this mission. And the TO, he put it in there randomly because he did random missions. And so, yeah, it's like basically your characters can only score. Nobody ever wants to play it. So I thought it was you score it based on the turn number. I thought they changed it, but it's actually you score it consecutively. Because I was wondering, you took one of the objectives like turn 4 and you caught up to me, and I was like, how is this possible? I had 2 objectives for like 3 turns.
You were dead by, I think,
it was
my
turn 3.
Yeah.
But like,
because I think I pulled the double turn, yeah.
Yeah, so I should have scored. It should have been a little bit different in our scoring, but if you watch the bat rep, we done goofed a little bit. But, we're both, Jason's new to Sigmar, and then I'm like new to Fire Slayers, and we were trying to film and stuff at the same time, so it kind of distracts you. But that's cool. So the next game, who'd you play?
I ended up playing Nick from Plastic Krack. With the Quadrant. Yeah. So, I mean, they have a lot of firepower and a lot of friggin' shots. This one I played it a little bit smarter. I put the brimstones up, and then I kind of put everyone else a little further back. He was smart, though, and then when I moved up with my characters, he ended up shooting them. But I still have my 2 big guys with the Lord of Change and Fate Weaver, and I was still able to kill a lot of the models with their mortal wounds because they're both pumping out two spells, and usually between those 2 spells, they're each able to do like 7 or so mortal wounds. So between the 2 of them, they're doing like 14 themselves. Yeah,
and then that's good. So you won that game big.
Ended up.
And then my next game, I played Will Paul, and he failed 2 run moves to take the objective turn 1 because his plague bearers only moved 4. And then I dumped all my Fire Slayers on the objectives, killed his big unclean one in a couple rounds of grinding, and took all the objectives, and it was kind of a wash. It was over really quickly. And so I ended up actually winning first place, and you took second. So congratulations.
Yeah, thanks, man. Now, I only got second because of went to the points killed.
And you killed more than everybody else in the tournament. That was one thing I noticed is like most, like you were the highest and you were like 2,500 points killed.
It was almost 2,000. Sorry, it was almost 4,000.
Oh, were you almost at 4,000? And then the next highest was 2,500, which was, I believe, Will Paul. And then I was like, I only killed like 2,000 points in 3 games.
Yeah, but I mean, you were playing the objectives, which was smart. Yeah.
So it's kind of funny how that happened. Now, one thing I want to talk about before we move on to 40k Eldar is deployment and going first. And so one of the things is, I forget who it was. I think it was Will. Will was like, I hate this game because of the double turn. I hate this game because of the double turn. And he really went on and on about it. And I was like, he's like, that's the one mechanic. If there was no double turn, I'd be fine with this. And so I thought about that, and I went, well, I already knew this, but I was like, that's not a really fair statement. And I'm not picking on Will, Will's a really good player, he's a really smart guy. But I want to just talk a little bit about mitigating the double turn. And so he has an army where he can drop his army in 1 drop and then go first if he wants to. But if he hates the double turn that much, he should just always go second. And when he goes second, if he rolls the double turn, just don't take a double turn. So if you go second and you never take a double turn throughout the whole game, your opponent will never have a double turn on you.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like one of those factors. If you really are, so if you're winning the game or you're in competitive and you'd rather go back and forth and you're worried about that, if this guy gets a double turn, I'm screwed. Well, just don't yourself take a double turn. Now, the other thing is you can mitigate that and have an army that goes first but doesn't care about the double turn, and then you could give your opponent the double turn and then never take one for the rest of the game yourself, so that you only have one done to you, but you can control when it is. So I hope that comes out clearly. I'm just saying you can actually manipulate when and how you get the double turn. It's not going to happen in every matchup. There's going to be some where you get screwed, but like I'd say 80% of games, if you're smart, you can control that. Like, just don't get greedy. Like, a lot of times I get the double turn and I'm like, I didn't actually need that. Like, it's nice, I'm doing more damage, but the guy's bubble wrap's still intact. It's not a rush. So I don't know how you guys feel about that.
Yeah, you're right. I think as long as you play for it, and you account for it, it's like, okay, I'm okay with going second, because then it leaves me the chance for the double turn. And with
Or
most of the
it
time,
leaves me
people,
the chance of you never getting a double turn.
yeah, you're right.
Because how many games did you really need that double turn? Right, like, let's say you went second, Jason. How many times were you like, I need this double turn, or it's a nice to have, and then you could have just not taking it and then never let your opponent do it to you?
Yeah, it was always just nice to have, I guess. Like, the only time I needed it was against you in our last game.
Yeah.
But then even still, once we figured out the correct scoring method, we were like, oh, it doesn't matter anyways.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So.
But then maybe you would have been more aggressive towards the objectives if we would have known the correct way. But you can't go
correct,
back.
Yeah.
You live and learn from your mistakes. So I just thought I'd put that out there for people that really hate that double turn. Okay, So now we're gonna get on to 40K. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that little battle report and some Sigmar. I don't know what it is. I've been just like obsessed with Age of Sigmar recently. It's just been so good. So much fun. And with the Fire Slayer update and playing a new army, getting away from the Stormcast, you can't really complain. So cool. So the Eldar Codex just came out. That's why Jason's on the show. He's a good Eldar player. Darren, you hate Eldar, right?
I don't hate Eldar. So I've never played Eldar. Actually, I lie. I played Eldar in like first edition when I used to own like the old Avatar, and I tried painting and it turned out like a lump of paint, and I threw it out the window. But yeah, that's the last time I played Eldar. I certainly played against a lot of Eldar in last edition.
Yeah, so we're kind of going to do a mini book review. We're not going to go through everything. Some of our other shows, we've maybe gone through too many things, and then some shows we don't go through enough. So I just want to kind of do a basic chat about Eldar, what we think's good, what we think's game-breaking, give some opinions, maybe go through some stratagems if we feel like it. But I don't want to, this isn't going to be super thorough. There are other people online that have gone through more thorough, in-depth, and we do have a YouTube video doing that. So with this book coming out, it's kind of weird. So there's basically 4 aspects of Eldar. You have Craftworlds, you have Ynnari, you have Dark Eldar, and you have Harlequins. And they're all pretty distinct. And this book just replaces the Craftworld portion. So we're still missing Dark Eldar, Harlequins, which are now missing from the Craftworld book, I believe. I didn't see them in there.
They're not in there.
Yeah, I believe they're missing. And then Ynnari's also missing, which was a shock to me that there is no Ynnari. It made me wonder, are we going to get a Ynnari book? Or are they going to be a chapter approved? Or what's going to happen there?
Squatted.
You think they're going to get squatted? Because it's only 3 characters.
No, I think they're going to do Harlequins and Ynnari and Dark Eldar together.
See, I doubt it. That's not what they've been doing in the past, though, right? I don't know if you agree with that. They seem to want to. I thought they were going to combine the factions more like AOS, but they've been really just dividing them and releasing new books. So
yeah, and it doesn't really look like they're going to mix up the characters because Eldrad was trying to summon which one was that, the Yinkarn or the Yvrain? I get the 2 mixed up. And then the other 2 could go with Dark Eldar, but you don't see that in here. So yeah, I'm not sure if they're going to make another book with it or what.
Yeah. So I guess we'll start off with any of the changes to the army-wide special rules. So we're kind of assuming that you have a basic index knowledge of the Eldar book and the units. It's pretty regular. It's easy to access. The individual unit cards. We're just kind of go through some of the changes. So first thing is standard is you have to pick a craft world for your forces. Now, most things in this book have the Craftworld tag, so you can be whatever you want. There's some that are famous, like Biltan, Alatiok, or Iandin, and there's some that are not, that you can invent your own, and then you could use whatever rules you want. Now, it's funny that actually some of the characters in this book do not have the Craftworld tag, So very few of the, I forget what they're called. What are the HQs that are for the Aspect Warriors called again? Man, I'm having a brain fart on that. The Phoenix Lords. The Phoenix Lords don't have, they don't have the Craftworld keyword, so you're kind of stuck with. They don't necessarily get all these fancy abilities, but just be aware that if you're playing somebody like Baroth and Fugan and the Striking Scorpion one and the Howling Banshee one, they don't get it, which is kind of interesting.
But it doesn't mess up your Craftworld benefits.
It shouldn't mess up anything.
No, it doesn't.
It shouldn't have any effect. It's just that it's interesting that they didn't do that. That those guys are separate. So the actual Aspect Warriors can have it, but the Phoenix Lord cannot. And I thought it would be interesting because some of the Phoenix Lords are created like an Exarch basically gets possessed by them, and he turns into the Phoenix Lord. Maybe he should have kept his Craftworld traits because he was possessed. I thought it would be more coherent, but they didn't do it. So,
but are fluff wise, are the Phoenix Lords come from a specific craft world, or?
So some of them do, like Ra does. But if you read some of the Striking Scorpion novels, which is the only one I've really read, the one Exarch of his Striking Scorpion unit, when they're being invaded, he turns into the Phoenix Lord, like almost as like possessed, and he gets like sucked into like a void and becomes this Phoenix Lord. So I don't know if they're all that way, but yeah, they're basically like wandering super character god summoning things.
Okay.
Is that a good enough description? That's the best I can do with my limited vocabulary. So the next one is Ancient Doom, a special roll they get. It's very same as before. They can reroll failed hit rolls in the turn in which it is charged or has been charged by Slaanesh units. However, you add 1 to morale checks if you have Slaanesh units within 3. Next one is Battle Focus. You want to take that one away, Darren?
Yeah, so Battle Focus is if a unit moves or advances in the movement phase, everything it shoots basically counts as if it hadn't moved.
Not heavy weapons.
Yeah, except for heavy weapons.
Everything but heavy weapons count as if stationary if you advance. But you still can't shoot heavy weapons if you advance. Which is pretty good. The next special rules, they have Path of Command. You can reroll hit rolls of 1 for friendly Craftworld units within 6 inches of this model. So not the Phoenix Lords, but some of them, they can reroll their own. Anyway. And then you roll a d6 for each command point that is spent, and you get it back on a 6. Wait, you get
6.
it back on a 6+ instead of a 5+ like most of the other codexes. I just wanted to confirm that.
And I think not many people have Path of Command. I think is it just the Autarch has Path of Command?
So and then there's other characters. Keep bringing them up because I'm really interested in Phoenix Lords. Obviously, they have a different version of this rule that applies to only warriors of their aspect host. So,
yeah, but they don't have the recycling CP part of it, though.
No, they don't have the recycling CP part.
So literally just Uriel and Autarchs.
Yep. So it is what it is. What do you guys think of that? Anything crazy or unexpected? So this is the one thing that really bothers me, if I'm going to cut back, is that, not bothers me, but it's like, you get these rules, but like, because you can no longer be Ynnari, so I'm going to precursor that book, like, part of me feels like we can talk about it as we go through the rules, but Ynnari's better than this book. I don't know if you feel the same way, Jason.
Yeah, well, the fact that they have the Soul Burst is just a phenomenal ability. The thing is, with Ancient Doom, it doesn't come up a whole lot, like with Slaanesh models. The Battle Focus, you can advance. They already move pretty quick, but it doesn't include heavy weapons. And there's shuriken pistols to shoot them and move it a little bit further. It's not going to do a whole lot for you. And then the Path of Command is just a nice ability to have. That is nice to be in there, but rather than just reroll ones, to have a whole ability where you can move or shoot or charge with Ynnari is better.
Cool. So now I want to do just a quick, what are some of the standout units, in your opinion, from this book? I'm going to go first.
Yeah.
So the first one I'm going to start with is a standout unit. It would be the Rangers. They're cheap. They're snipers. I think they're fantastic. Do you guys concur on that one?
Absolutely.
Do you have a standout unit, Jason?
Well, not. No, you know what? Not really, actually.
That's one of the hard things of this book. There's not a lot of standout units.
It's stuff like still some of the models are pretty good with some of the stratagems. Like I still do like fire dragons. Warp spiders are still pretty good. They still move really far.
I like swooping hawks.
Wraithguard, pretty good.
I like swooping hawks.
Yeah.
But okay, so standout unit for me is Rangers, and standout unit for you if you had to pick one.
No, Rangers are good. And yeah, it's funny because you said both that are actually pretty good right now in the book. Thank you for doing that. I still do like Wraithguard. They have 3 wounds now. That's pretty good.
That's pretty good. So we'll move on. We'll come back to some of these units as we get to the stratagems. I know it was I put you on the spot there, but I was just interested if there was like a standout unit that you're like, I want to build an army around this guy.
I got a unit that I like.
Oh, sorry, I forgot you were even alive.
I like Morgan Ra.
Oh, he's excellent too, yeah.
Because Dark Reapers are good, and he makes them better.
Well, he's good just himself.
And he's good too. I mean,
he's a character and he shoots a lot.
And he kills an infantry model, and that unit suffers D3 mortals. I mean, that's pretty sweet too. And he can shoot twice, and yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna hand it off to you, Darren, and let's talk about Craftworlds. This is the big thing with the book.
Yeah. Hang on, I'm just turning the page. So, like with a lot of books now, the Craftworld attributes are the same as the chapter tactics or the regiment tactics, all those sort of things. I guess before we mention that, of course, the troops and detachments get objectives secured, and you can include Phoenix Lord in your detachment. Doesn't take away from your Craftworld alignment. So Craftworld attributes. So Lay Talk, I guess, is the one that everyone's been talking about. Opponents subtract 1 from hit rolls to target the unit when it's outside of 12 inches. So
Boring.
The important thing about the important reason that's a little bit better than the Raven Guard one is because Raven Guard chapter tactic only applies to infantry, bikes, and dreadnoughts, whereas this applies to everything.
Yeah.
So that's a big difference.
Even flyers.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one's going to see some play. But it's like
for sure, yeah.
But it's kind of boring, right? Like every book has a -1 to hit ability attribute or something, right?
Yeah, and the instant this came out, people were like, how much minus to hit can we stack on one model?
Yeah, because if you look at it, like this is great with something like a warp spider that has a built-in -1 if they flicker jump, which is like, why wouldn't you do it? So they're built-in -2, which is huge. But I'm trying to think. There's also the Forge World where the Shadow Specters or whatever, they're also -1, so you can stack that.
And the Wraith Fighters, they were already hard enough to kill. Now they're -2.
Now they're -2. We will get to it. There is a spell that does that as well, but it only affects 1 unit now instead of all of them, so we'll get to that later, though. It's pretty strong. That's an understatement. What's the next one?
Yeah.
Next one is Bealtan is Sword Wind. Add 1 to leadership of Aspect Warriors and reroll hit rolls of 1 for Shuriken weapons. And that includes all the stuff that says Shuriken. So that's all right. Not too good.
Yeah, not too good.
Not as good as
It's geared towards Dire Avengers and like fluff-wise, I guess. Like Bealtan, I know it's Aspect Warriors, but the most numerous of the Aspect Warriors is the Dire Avengers, and they're kind of like the troops. So I think it's geared towards if you're doing like a heavy Dire Avenger army, but I'm not really a fan of that. So because you could already get that from other characters and then you can have better abilities.
Yeah. So Eandon is the craft world for all the Wraith constructs, I guess.
Yeah.
So their thing is, we've seen this in Guard already. You can't lose more than 1 model as a result of morale test failure, and you double your wounds attribute when you determine like the charts for things that have charts.
This is gross. It seems so. The reason they did this is you're like, okay, well, you're taking Wraithguard, and they don't want a lot of Wraithguard to dive to leadership, but this is gross on a big unit of Guardians. Or anything that's like holding an objective, or bike, even like certain things like, well, bike units are usually pretty small, so they don't really care about leadership, but I think the big ones, like any big unit that you want to run, Guardians on a back objective, now they're just not going to run away. So you take a small detachment, you take some of them, they're basically Commissar, like they're more expensive than conscripts, but it's like the Eldar version.
Yep.
Which is huge.
Yeah. The nice part with the doubling wounds and to figure out where you are and like your damage output, like how damaged you are. That's really nice if you want to run like a monster mash list. You can actually now have them running, and they're going to take so much more damage to actually start going down in their charts.
Yeah, and their tanks.
Like you mean Wraith Knights and Wraith Lords and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So you can run a fair few of them and actually have them decently, and you don't care if you lose. You know, but you got to lose 3/4 of your wounds to finally go down.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this does play well for people who've been running those kind of pure Wraith host lists. So, you know, your Wraith Guard aren't running away, and your Wraith Knight is going to survive, is going to be more effective. And
it's basically making your army fearless, which is crazy. And then it's as even Jason, like even if you're just running a tank army, like we're gonna get to Sandheim next, but like you're taking an all Sandheim tank army because that's like fluff. That was what a lot of people did in 3rd edition, let's say, and they have that army, they dig it out. Well, maybe you're going to make it Iandan just so that you're always doing the proper amount of damage. Because a lot of people do that, right? If I have a -1 to hit, I'll get your tanks down to like 50%, so you're -2 to hit, and then I'll move on to the next one. But now I actually have to completely destroy a target before really lowering the effectiveness of your whole army. So it's definitely good.
Next is Sam Hain or Sam Han. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Or Sam Han, whatever.
I think Han, but
I've heard it pronounced many ways.
Sam Han.
And they're the sort of biker Craftworld, and so they get to reroll failed charge rolls for units with this attribute. In addition, biker units do not suffer penalty to hit rolls for moving, firing heavy weapons like scatter lasers.
So good.
Yeah. So the first part of that, though, the reroll charge rolls, not really going to come into play very much because usually you're not going to charge jet bikes into anything.
Yep.
But
that applies to everything.
A few. Yeah, so there's a few that are good in there.
So do you think this makes jet bikes good again? With scatter lasers? I mean, scat bikes?
Yeah, you are going to see definitely more scat bikes. Also with net, if you give them... The other thing, too, is if you give them shuriken cannons, now those are assault. So you can move your... What's the movement on a 16 inches or 14 inches?
Yeah, it's like 16. It's around there, whatever.
Yeah, and then you can also advance and shoot it normally with a shuriken cannon. So you're moving around 20 inches, shoot normally, or...
This is just for heavy weapons. So.
Yeah, but I'm saying, sorry, they're already good with the rule that they have a battle focus.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then when you...
But...
Oh, keep going.
No, that's good. I mean, like, now you can put both types of weapons on the bikes, and it makes them very viable.
Yeah, because that's what Jason and I were talking about before, is we both had heavy Eldar jet bike armies, and then when the index came out, we're like, geez, now we have to cut off all our scatter lasers and go all shrieking cannons, because they're just, as Jason just said, they're so good, but now scatter lasers are almost as effective as them, but a higher damage output. So I think to Jason's point is you could run the Shrieking Cannons as any Craftworld you want, but if you're running scatter lasers, you have to run them as Sam Han.
Yeah, to help you with the -1. And yeah, you were right about the rerolls for failed charge rolls on anyone. So now you can actually take a mix if you want some Howling Banshees or Striking Scorpions. And the nice part is now they can reroll their charge rolls.
Yeah, which is
so you can have a mix of bikes on your backfield and then a couple guys midfield that are combat units.
And because these are per detachment, you could be like, oh, my Shrieking Cannon bikes are going to be a Latiok, so they're -1 to hit and they're fast. And then my Scatter Laser bikes are going to be San Han. And then, my Guardians are going to be Iandan. So you can definitely kind of mix those up. But we'll move on to the last one, then we'll come back and see if it's worth throwing into the mix.
Last one is Ulthway, which is Eldred's Craftworld, and so you roll a d6 each time a model with the attribute loses a wound, so they get a 6+ funeral pain basically. And if a model has a similar ability, then you choose which one, so no stacking. That's it. They get a 6+ funeral pain.
I know. I kind of like it, and I kind of don't at the same time.
I think there's ones in here that are better, like the -1 to hit, or Yeah, that would probably be my fourth choice out of the five.
Yeah. So as I kind of said first, is you're basically going to see vehicles that are survivable, high-ended, or a Latiok for that matter. I think a Latiok's going to be the default. If I had a new player in my club, say I'm playing Eldar, which Craftworld should I count them as? I would say just count them all as Latiok to start off with. Don't get tricksy. And then he's like, oh, I got some scatter bikes. Okay, I'd be like, okay, make them Sam Han in a detachment. And then he's like, maybe, that's the thing. Is it better to double your wounds or better to be -1 to hit as a tank? Like a Wave Serpent or something. It's a hard choice, right?
Yeah.
So that's the other issue. But those three are generally pretty good to mix up. But I think you're going to see just a lot of a Latiok and a little bit of Sam Han mixed in. And that's kind of it. And then maybe I end in if you're doing... But, I'd rather have a Wraith Knight that's -1 to hit at 12 inches away. Stops the Alpha Strike against you a little bit. Keeps him good. And then if he's taking less wounds, you don't need to double his wounds to be at full effectiveness because he's just taking less. And the thing that worries me, if you mix things and you have some things that are -1 to shoot and some things that aren't, they're going to shoot the things that aren't, and it's going to make that -1 ineffective.
Mm-hmm.
Because nobody's going to target it. They can only target so many things. They're going to hit the thing straight on.
Yeah, and with the rerolls are before modifiers. Now, and so many things have rerolls. So many things but now it's like, hey, you know what? If you roll an actual 3, those all miss. You don't get to reroll them, or a 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's cool. So any final thoughts on the Craftworlds, or did we think we covered it up? I think we covered it.
Yeah, there's definitely some. Yeah, there's definitely some winners in there, and yeah, you're right. We'll see 3 of them a lot more than we'll see the other 2,
which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
So I guess Darren, you want to take away some of the stratagems, and then Jason and I will kind of cut in and interject if we have any comments on it or whether or not we're going to use it in our army. So
I think they do have some good stratagems. I like the Celestial Shield, which gives your Guardian unit 4+ invuln when they're targeted in the shooting phase. I guess that meshes very well with this big unit of stuff that's only going to lose 1 in the morale phase. Now they have a 4+ invuln. For 1 CP, it's not so bad.
Or even -1. They're -1 to hit, and then they're getting shot at 4+ invul. Yeah. Now you're not clearing my backfield objective. 1 CP, I like it too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's basically the whole Dark Angel strategy right there in one stratagem. I like Cloud Strike. So this allows a vehicle or any unit with a fly keyword to deep strike, basically. Lots of things that fly in this codex.
Yeah, so that could be bikes, could be anything you want, right?
Literally, almost everything has fly. Yeah, it's crazy.
And because it's 1 CP and it's done, it's basically done prior to in the deployment. You could use it multiple times if you want.
Yep, and along with that, they also have Webway Strike. Sorry, which allows a unit of infantry or bikers to do the same thing. And if you spend 3 CPs, you can set up 2 units. So you have lots of ways of putting things into deep strike, basically, in the deployment phase.
Okay, so we're jumping around a little bit. Grab another one. What's the next one?
Well, I'll jump in there. I like the Fire and Fade one.
I love that one.
Where so it's 1 CP, and then... So after a friendly Asuryan unit shoots in the shooting phase, if you do so, the unit can immediately move 7 inches as if it were the movement phase, but it can't advance or charge. But that's nice.
It's like the old battle focus.
Yeah. So you're bringing them in, you're shooting at a target, and you're like, okay, now I'm going to move 7 inches away from you. Good luck on trying to charge me.
And I like that it's a straight 7. It's not a D6 or something, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's good.
Well, if you're going to pay a CP, it should be a straight. It should be just like a straight value, probably, right? Or it wouldn't be worth it.
Yeah.
Any other ones you like, Jason?
Yeah, there was the one that it's 1 CP. You can immediately shoot your Wave Serpent Shield again if need be, which, it hits on a 2+, and it does D3 mortal wounds. So if you have that big monster and you're like, geez, I'm so close, it's better than casting Smite. So you can use that and just to shoot a Wave Serpent Shield again.
Yep. Overloaded energy field projectors.
Yeah, that's the one.
A cool one.
There's
Oh.
There's the lightning fast reactions, the 2 CP one that gives you -1 to hit for a fly unit or infantry unit. So there's your other way of getting another -1 on your Hemlock Wraith Fighter.
Jeez. Yeah.
-3 to hit. I want your guys' thoughts on this linked fire stratagem that lots of people have been going on about. So this is the one that lets you, if you have a bunch of fire prisms, it basically they link up fire, they all fire, and they all get to reroll hit and wound rolls for 1 CP.
Yeah, it's good if you have fire prisms. But one of them has to shoot last, right? Or something like that? Or they have to shoot last?
Yeah, so one is like the targeter, and then everybody else has to shoot first, and then the guy who shoots last gets to like do full rerolls, basically.
Okay. Yeah, it's okay. It's just like, I personally don't like the fire prisms, so I'm not going to take them. But if you're the type of player that has 1 or 2 of them or 3 of them, and they come in the start collecting box too, so I could see a lot of Sandheim armies, or I wouldn't run them as Sandheim, obviously, but I could see a lot of people taking them and then using that ability just to get more value out of them. And it's only 1 CP, so if you are taking them, you might as well, right?
Yep.
But the one that I like... Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jason.
I was going to say, it's pretty cool that if one of them targets it, it can see it, but then the other one, it doesn't need line of sight.
Which could be huge. It could be huge. You can spread them out, and you can basically get the pinpoint on a unit behind cover with one, and then they can all blow it away. Because the Eldar don't have... They have some artillery, but they don't have a lot of... Like the Astra Militarum, a big part of their advantage is like Basilisks don't do a ton of damage, but they can hit something out of line of sight. So they can hit like a unit on a back objective, and they can force you to have to leave more back to control your own zone. And this kind of gives the same effect, right?
Yep.
Cool. So the one that I think's cool is Guided Wraith Sight. And this one's awesome for one reason, because if you've done Goof, which is pretty easy to do, you do a quick measure and somebody calls you, oh man, your spirit seer's 6 inches out from like a Wraith Knight or something. Well, it increases their ability to 12, and then it allows all friendly Wraith constructs to reroll all failed to hit rolls instead of hit rolls of 1 within 12. So that's pretty good if you have a lot of Wraith stuff and you're trying to spread the bubble out and you only have maybe one Wraith Seer left. It allows them to just increase his range, get more damage output out of your units, which is pretty good. Or if you've done Goof, now you can extend the range and reroll for 1 CP. It's kind of like a correction factor, which is nice to have. It's a nice option.
I like the Phantasm one. It's 2 CP, but it allows you before the battle, at the start of the first battle round, but before the first turn, you can pick 3 of your units that you deployed and redeploy them.
Yeah, I like that one too.
Actually, and then my absolute favorite is the Pathfinder stratagem. So you can use this at the start of the enemy shooting phase, and you pick a ranger unit from your army that is in cover, and basically people can only hit them on 6s. Irrespective of modifiers. That's amazing, because now I have a ranger unit on my back objective. It's your turn to shoot. I can go, oh, I'm going to pop a CP. That unit right there, you hit on 6s. The guy's like, shh, oh, I need to kill that unit to, I don't know, get this objective, or to, get a kill unit, because it's like, squish your target maybe, or it's like, nope, you just shut the guy down, and now you can force him to shoot at maybe your bigger targets or something that's tougher. And I love that option there. Like, I need to win Maelstrom, because we're tied on Maelstrom. I need to hold point 2. This Pathfinder unit is on point 2. You're not hitting them. I love that. Like, that, to me, I'm like, this stratagem, you're going to win games. Because in my mind, the one thing I don't have in my Eldar army is Pathfinders, Rangers. And this only applies to Rangers, and only to Aleutiok Craftworld Rangers, for that matter. But I'm going to buy, like, I could honestly, if I start playing my Eldar hard again, I could see buying 30 or 40 Rangers, right? That's how good they are. And so if you're doing that, you're going to go Aleutiok for the -1 to hit, because they have long range, and you're going to use this stratagem like crazy to keep that one unit alive you need. Period. Like, that, to me, I'm like, you're going to win a game based on this stratagem. So, like, Maelstrom's such a big deal now, and holding objectives can be really tough at range, because people will blow you off them.
So do you guys think Eldar is an army that's going to rock a lot of command points?
What do you mean by a lot? Define a lot.
Well, I guess your average non-brigade army is going to have 6 or 7, right? So
Do I think
You know,
Eldar are a brigade? So all the points. One thing that we haven't got the points yet. All the points across the board dropped.
Yeah.
So the fact
But
that
enough to brigade it up.
no, I don't think you're going to brigade it. But I definitely think you could have one or two. You could definitely probably get 9, 10 command points quite easily.
Yep.
And their stuff's pretty cheap, and there's not a lot of crazy ones that you got to spend a lot on. I could definitely see 9 or 10. Any other ones you like? Stratagems you guys like? Like, there's a lot of ones that affect psychers, and they're like, I don't really care about that. Like, I can see it being good, like, the odd time, but, like, I'm not going to take a Seer Council on, like, personally. So.
Yep.
Yeah, there's nothing else that really jumps out. Like, I mean, there's always some cool ones in how you want to go. Like, the one that's 3 CP that brings your avatar back to life. That's pretty cool. But Navistar is still... Yeah, it's still 250 points to take an avatar.
And it's 3 CP.
Yeah, and that's the other thing.
And you got to pay the points, right, to bring them back.
Oh, get out.
Right? Like, didn't they factor that in?
Because it doesn't die. It says it remains on the battlefield.
Oh, yes, you're right. You're right. Sorry, I had a brain fart with the other book. No, so yeah, you don't have to pay points for him. That one's really nice if you're running an avatar.
Yeah.
But he seems really weak. He's 250 points. Yeah, he seems weak. He seems like he's going to die.
He ain't no Gilliman.
No, he ain't no Gilliman.
No.
Freaking awesome model, the Forge World one.
Yeah.
So, one thing, before we move on to Warlord traits, is there anything in the book that's a standout choice to you, Jason? What's your list going to look like, your Eldar list? Like, approximately. It doesn't have to be exactly. What's the approximate structure of your Eldar list?
Yeah, I would definitely be taking some Rangers in there. It is nice to drop some Swooping Hawks back on some objectives. Not a big fan of the Warlocks. You can't do the Smite spam with because they have only 2 wounds and their Smites are only 9 inches. So it kind of limits you in that regard. I'd probably
you gotta run like 10 of them just to get up to a proper Smite or something like that.
It's not really feasible in this list. I'd probably run some Wave Serpents are pretty good. I'd definitely throw in probably a couple units of Wraith Guard just to have the auto hits. It would honestly just be a mix mash of stuff. I'd be taking I take a unit of Fire Dragons. I'd be taking Dire Avengers. I might even take Fire Prisms. I'd probably go with some Flyers too, especially with the extra -1 to hit. They're going to be good. Yeah.
Yeah, my list. So the one list that I'm really excited to play soon is just basically Warp Spider spam, and there's no way around it. They're -2 to hit now all the time. You don't need to rely on psychic powers to get to the -2 to hit. They do a ton of damage. They're not that ridiculous. They're still under 20 points per guy, so you can definitely run like 80 or 70 and still do quite well. One thing that really excited me is I was running numbers on Swooping Hawks, and so 10 of them do 40 shots, strength 3 of course, but if you're looking at something like a Brimstone unit, like 30, so just do an example, like 100 Swooping Hawks, that's 400 shots, and it's only 1,300 points. So I know it sounds like a lot, but you have 100 models that can deploy anywhere on the board. They can go back up into reserve, come back down. They have a 24-inch range gun, 4 shots a pop. So you come in, you do 400 shots. Now they have a changeling, so you're -1 to hit. So now you're doing 200 hits because they hit on 3, so it'd go up to 4. And then they do 100 wounds, which kills 50 brimstones a turn. And it's only 1,300 points, and that ignores the mortal wounds that they do when they come in. And then they can sit back at 24 and then jump on objectives once they clear you off. I don't know. I think it might be a horde killer. I think Swooping Hawks might definitely be the new horde killer for the Eldar.
Did you want to touch on how they do their mortal wounds?
Yeah, so they basically just come in and they pick a unit, and then you roll a die for every model in that unit, and on a 6 they take a mortal wound.
Yeah, and they just have to be within 12 inches, I think, of that unit, right? With the turn they drop in, and otherwise if it's a unit they move over.
Yeah, so you're not going to use it like turn 1 to 3, but then like turn 4, you're going to so I this is the way I see using Swooping Hawks is they're going to come in turn 1 or start on the board. They're going to be a Latiox. They're -1 to hit. They're going to sit at 24-inch range, and they're going to do 2 to 3 turns of damage. Maybe you put one unit up early so you can grab a Maelstrom point here and there. They're going to sit there. They're going to shoot, and then about turn 4 or 5, they're all going to go up. They're all going to come in. They're going to finish stuff off, and then you have like 700 points of stuff to fill out the rest of the army, which is probably like six units of Rangers and like a character. So that's a list that I want to do, is the Hawk list. I'm not thinking 100 Hawks. I'm thinking around like 40 or 50, or I'm thinking around 60 or 70 Warp Spiders. 2 different lists. I definitely don't think the bikes are a way to go anymore. Even with that scatter laser boost, I'd still rather take the cannons and the -1 to hit, personally. And then I find bikes just too expensive for their damage output. They just won't get through the Brimstones. They just won't get through the conscripts fast enough, even with the conscript nerf.
Yeah, we've done the math on that with how many you'd have to get rid of to get through Brimstones, and it's just not a feasible option.
No. So, okay, Darren, take it away. We'll move on to Warlord traits.
Yeah. So we got the first one, Ambush of Blades. Each time you make a hit, roll a 6. Within 6 inches of your Warlord, AP goes, you get an extra 1 on your AP, which is pretty good. Eye on distant events. Enemies cannot fire Overwatch at your Warlord. It's not that good. Falcon Swiftness, add 2 to your Warlord's move. Not that good.
Yeah, in a fast army, you don't need that.
Fate's Messenger, add 1 to the wound characters of your Warlord, and he gets a 6+ feel no pain.
Dig it. I do dig it.
Mark of the Incomparable Hunter. Your Warlord can target enemy characters in the shooting phase, even if they're not the closest enemy model. I like that. Yeah. I don't think you can put that on the Phoenix Lords, though, because they have specific ones, which is too bad. Mm-hmm. If you put that on Mogan Ra, that'd be cool.
Busted.
Yeah. Seer of the Shifting Vector. Once per battle round, you can reroll a single hit roll, wound roll, save roll, psychic test, or deny the witch for your Warlord. It's not bad. It's like a Fate Weaver reroll every round.
Yeah, I like it.
And then they have the specific ones for named characters and for Phoenix Lords. Well, Phoenix Lords can never have Warlord traits. So.
Yeah, they can't have one, which I think we said earlier. But yeah, cool. And so, any of the ones that stand out? Like the standard one, like the +1 wound, 6+, it's a good one if you have a character you just want to keep alive, but generally they're not going to be getting shot. You're going to have stuff in the way, hopefully. Yeah,
the LA Talk one's not bad. 6 inches of Warlord, you automatically pass morale tests.
Which is awesome, actually, because that goes really well with your -1 to hit. Now you're passing them. So, it's pretty good.
Yep.
That's actually really good. So now you don't even need a
Yeah, the Ulthway one gives you every turn you can have a 1 in 6 chance of getting a CP back. It's not as good as the guard one.
Well, I was thinking, and why would you do that? I guess you get to roll twice. If you take that one and you take a what do they call, an Autarch, you would get to do 2. You get to roll 2 dice every time you use a CP. Mm-hmm. Is that legit or no? Sounds legit. So you just roll 2 dice. If either one's a 6, or if they're both 6s, you could get 2 back.
Well, no? This is just at the start of each turn, whereas the Autarch one is I can't remember.
Every time you spend one, it's every time.
When you spend. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm okay. That's good. So they're kind of lackluster. Now we'll go on to Remnants of Glory. Is there any items that you could see taking that are like? I guess you'll always take one. Like the one that I like is and I can't even say it. It's the Shimmer Plume of Achilleral, and it's basically your Warlord is -1 to hit. So this is huge to me because there's a lot of snipers in the game now. So, and it's only for your Autarch. But if my Autarch's my Warlord, he's -1 to hit. He's a Latioch. He's -2 to hit because I believe this one doesn't have a special craft world with it. And so now my Warlord's sitting there, and he's like, "Come on, snipers, shoot me!
Yep,
I dare you!" And so I would intentionally take an Autarch just for this to kind of bait people into wasting shots to go for that Slay the Warlord, which is kind of nice.
Yep, I like, and some people have been talking about this with their Wraith armies, the Citronome of Eandon.
Okay.
This basically, once in the battle at the start of the fight phase, you declare that the model will activate the Citronome, and for the rest of that fight phase, Wraith constructs within 6 inches have double the attacks.
Yeah, that's really good.
So your Wraith Knight, if you're using a sword, which got buffed, by the way, because it's a lot cheaper, is attacking like 10 times or something like that.
Awesome. Jason, any items that you dig?
The Shift Shroud of Alansair. Yeah, that one. Models on foot only. You subtract 1 from the hit rolls of the attacks that target the bear in the shooting phase. And in addition, he can go into hiding, and then at the end of your first movement phase, you can set him up out of hiding, set him up anywhere on the battlefield more than 9 inches away.
Yeah, but that's Alatiok only, which of course is the best one. So you're going to see a lot of Alatiok armies, which kind of pisses me off because they're like one of my favorite Craftworlds. So, and now they were actually busted in 3rd edition, and now they're like the best one again. So crazy. Yeah, the rest are all standard like shooting items, weapons. You take them for fun, but you're not going to get a lot of use out of them.
Yeah, I got to say, none of the weapon upgrade relics in any of the codexes have been that impressive, to be honest.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to move on. There's 2 different lores for the Eldar. We have the Runes of Fate and the Runes of Battle. Now, the Runes of Battle are generally taken on things like Warlocks. Well, they are taken on Warlocks. And then the Runes of Fate are taken on Farseers. And so the cool thing is that they took these 2 lores, and of course they doubled them in size, just like they did with all the other books when they come out. They gave us a taster of 3 powers. But they actually, one thing that I thought was cool is they actually fixed some of the broken Eldar powers. So I guess this book was printed late enough that they were able to, take something that was maybe abusable and correct it. So you want to take us through the Runes of Battle, Darren?
Yeah, so all the Eldar powers, all the Runes of Battle are split into 2, like a light side and the dark side. I don't know.
It's one's like affect you and one's affect your opponent.
Yeah. So dark side and the light side. Conceal, reveal. So this was in the index, but warp charge of 6. Conceal basically gives you a -1 to hit from ranged attacks.
1 unit.
For an infantry or biker unit within 18 inches. Yeah.
So it's only 1 unit, so you don't get the bubble effect anymore, which I believe.
Yeah, that used to be a bubble, right? Yeah.
Used to be a bubble, and so like when this book was like previewed, I was like, oh my gosh, -3 to hit warp spiders, all of it. Now you still get that, just it's only 1 unit, right? So it's not as good, but and you can't do it to like a Wraith Knight, which kind of sucks. Like if you could, then you'd be like, this is my Latiok Wraith Knight. He's -2 to hit, and he's going straight into your grill with his sword.
And so the other thing, people used to use Conceal on their Wraith Fighters, but now they specified in the data slate for the Wraith Fighter that you can only use the second half of these powers. So
yeah, that sucks. So
otherwise they could be minus. A Latiok Wraith Fighter could be -4 to hit.
Yeah, which is gross.
Yeah.
So what's the dark side of that spell?
The dark side is reveal. Choose an enemy unit within 18 inches. Does not ignores cover, basically. Number 2 is embolden and horrify. Warp charge 6. Embolden infantry and biker unit within 18 inches. Adds 2 to the leadership, and horrify subtracts 1 from the enemy's unit.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I don't know what you guys have thought in your game so far, but yet again, it seems like morale is not a huge thing for most people.
Well, it is huge, but it's not huge for MSU armies. And so Eldar typically are MSU, and they have decent leadership as is standard. So if you're like for example, you're a leadership 7 unit, but you only have 3 models. Well, you're going to lose 2. You're basically almost immune to leadership. Like you lose the 2, you have to roll a 6, right?
Yeah.
But I believe a lot of the Eldar stuff's 8 and or 7, so it's decent as is. They're all small units. They're -1 to hit. They're hard to do damage to, and they're usually so light that if you're shooting at a 5-man unit, it's gone, type thing.
Yeah.
So you're not really too concerned about it. And then of course, if you are concerned about it, you would just go I-handed. So why would you worry about this power? But if you had unlimited powers and you had 10 warlocks and they all had different powers, I could see taking this one as a one-off, but nah, it's not really that good. You're not going to waste that slot. You're going to try for anything else, generally.
Third one is Enhance and Drain, Warp Charge 7. Enhance lets you add 1 to the hit rolls in the fight phase. Not that good. And Drain lets you -1 from hit rolls in the fight phase.
Well, the -1's pretty good.
Arguably more useful.
It only affects bikers and infantry, which is a problem. So the things that you really would like to cast this spell on, Wraith Knights, Avatar, but there's nothing wrong with Banshees adding 1 to hit, especially if they're going into something that minuses 1 to hit, or things like that. Like Scorpions do a lot of damage. This could be good for them.
Yep.
Yeah, the nice part is you can actually cast Drain on your opponent because it doesn't limit you for Drain. It just says you can cast it on an enemy unit. So if you're going into a big horde, or you're like, man, I got to keep this guy alive, you just cast it on him, and now you're right. Now you're striking Scorpions. You're going to stay alive.
Yeah. Yep.
So.
And I think they fact it where you can, the 2 powers count as separate. I don't know what's going on. So you can basically enhance and drain in the same turn. Like you can cast it twice, right?
Yeah, they said just count as separate powers. So.
Yeah, so even though they're like separated by a slash, so you could literally be like, I'm going to add 1 to my hit rolls because I'm going into an orc unit with 10 striking Scorpions. I'm going to -1 to your hit rolls. And now that's going to be a rough combat for the orc player.
Yep. Okay, Project and Jinx, Warp Charge of 7. Add 1 to saving throws for your infantry or biker unit.
Love
and -1 to saving throws. So both are pretty good. Yeah,
that's fantastic. That's like Conceal's pretty good.
Changing a 4+ invuln to a 5+ invuln is a big deal.
Yeah. Well, and especially if you have like 2 warlocks or something, you're going to be like, okay, you're -1 to hit. I'm also going to -1 to increase 1 to my save. If you have 2 more, you'd be like, I'm going to +1. So you can really get some buff stack to really make some units gross.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there's a lot of flexibility in these powers. So Quicken and Restrain were charged as 7. Immediately move as if it were the movement phase. You cannot use Quicken on a single unit more than once per psychic phase. And then Restrain is your opponent halves the move characteristic of the models in that unit.
That's a fantastic power too.
That one's. I really like that one. So if you wanted, I was thinking when you take that with. Fire Dragons are going to be phenomenal with that, and so are Wraith Guard with the Flamers.
Yep.
And, oh my gosh, yeah. They're just going to be flying up the table.
Yeah. But even then, your late game, you've lost a lot of your stuff, you can just stop that unit. Or that, if you can go first, you can even... It's got a shorter range, but... You go up there, you're like, okay, I'm going to use orcs as an example. Nobody's really scared of orcs. But you're like, those storm boys are moving at half speed. So now instead of getting hit by 2 units of storm boys, you're only getting hit by 1, turn 1. And then when they do the jump, and it just kind of slows down the enemy's force a little bit. And if somebody's stupid enough, depending on how they bubble wrap, so those brimstone guys, the way that they bubble wrap, you can just be like, oh, that front unit of brims is moving at half speed. So now I just slow down your whole army with 1 spell. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do with this, and your opponent has to know that, you can stop that, therefore I have to maybe do 2 waves of bubble wrapping, because one of my units might get slowed, and Brim's moving at 3, or even a Pink Star moving at 3, it's just not going to get on that objective. Oh, we're playing the Relic, normally it's a Pink Star was it a 5/6, it can get the Relic, if you roll an advance on a 5 or 6, it gets the Relic turn 1, and then good luck getting it back. While the Eldar player takes first turn, if he's lucky enough to get it, goes in there, that Pink Star moves 3, now you're never getting the Relic turn 1.
Yeah, it's also good if you can bait someone out, let's say they have a large character like Mortarion, and he's getting close to you, you're like, oh man, so I'm going to cast a couple other spells, try to get him to use up his denies, and then I'm going to cast that one on him, and even with the warp time going on him, hey, he's only moving his regular speed, so it really limits him.
Yeah, it's just crazy good. That's a crazy good power. There's so many situations in which that power could win you a game, or just destroy your enemies, just crush their soul. I was trying to think of that Conan line to be there, lamentation of his women and blah blah blah, whatever. Okay, what's the last one?
Last one is Empower and Innervate Empower is add 1 to wound rolls in the fight phase, and Innervate is the opposite, -1 wound rolls in the fight phase. So again,
Yeah.
I'm not sure how often you want to be fighting, but if you are, then
It's not good, but if you're going for like a stupid fighting combo, a big unit or something, and you want to go in there, you could use this to then, as we said earlier, it stacks with the other things. You're -1 to wound, you're -1 to hit me, you're -1 to this, okay. Like my unit striking scorpions is now going to literally just survive against your unit. But it's not a big part of the game right now, and there's so many better powers. But it's not bad. Like, literally, this lore has one bad power. Well, it's actually 12 powers, which is the crazy thing. And it actually has one bad power that's the leadership one, and you really can't complain about it, because +1 leadership is like, yeah, it's not really that great, but it's not really that bad either, so I think it's a fantastic lore. I think this is, like, Runes of Battle is awesome.
yep.
Yeah, they're good.
So next one is Runes of Fate. You want to take that away, Darren?
Yeah, so guide. We already know guide. Friendly unit within 24 inches gets to reroll hit rolls for ranged attacks.
Good.
Doom, warp charge of 7. Reroll failed wound rolls against the unit that's within 24 inches.
Also really good.
And so, yeah, these are the 3 index powers. And Fortune is warp charge 7. Choose a friendly unit within 24 inches. They have a 5+ feel no pain. And they specified further that if you have another effect like that, you have to choose. Number 4 is Executioner, so warp charge 7. If manifested, nearest enemy unit within 18 inches takes D3 mortal wounds. If they're slain as a result of this, target unit suffers an additional D3 mortal wounds. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, because odds are it's going to probably kill a model.
Okay.
Or sorry,
Yeah.
it's only
So it's like a double smite.
Yeah, which is wicked.
Yeah.
It's double smite, but like, it's nearest. Okay, I got excited for nothing. I actually read that wrong when I was reading through this book. I thought that you could snipe a character, but you can't. You can't. So,
Yeah.
my
No.
mistake.
And the rumor is that smite's going to get changed, and so they have their own version of a double smite. So that's pretty cool.
What do you mean? What's the rumor? Come on, man. You have to say more than that.
I don't know how it's going to be changed, but it's been flying around that smite's going to get changed.
I could definitely see smite going down to be like 1 mortal wound.
Yeah, or limited in how many times you can cast it or something like that.
So I don't think that would be a good idea, because they've intentionally kind of just said you need that 1 power. If they limit it, that would be fine, I guess. But if they made it 1 wound, I don't think smite spam would be a thing either. But it would still help out psycho heavy armies. So, okay, we're off topic. We'll move on. Sorry.
Will of Assyrian, warp charge 5, automatically pass morale tests within 6 inches of the psyker, and add 1 to deny the witch tests. And Mind War, everybody's favorite Mind War. So this is warp charge 7. You choose an enemy character within 18 inches, and then you roll d6 and add leadership. If you're higher, you do number of wounds equal to the difference in mortals.
It's pretty
Which is
good.
nice.
Like anything that snipes characters is great. Mind you, you're not taking a Farseer for that power, because if you want to kill characters, you'll just take the Rangers. It's pretty good. I could definitely see taking a couple Warlocks and a couple Farseers, and then a bunch of fast-moving stuff out front to kind of buff with. What do you think about that?
Yeah, the Mind War you can definitely stack with a couple things, like the Hemlock Wraith Fighters, a -2 leadership, and with the Warlocks, the -1 leadership that they have. But for the most part, you're right. You won't see that too often. Executioner, I like it. It's almost like, it's a double smite with a value of 7.
And there are stratagems that let you, like, +1 to cast and things like that. So you could, like, if you're worried about rolling that 7, there are ways in which you could buff your Farseer up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah,
You're wasting a lot of CP
Farseer's,
points on that, but it is what it is. If you have them.
Farseer's a nice character too. He's got 4+ invuln. And so.
Yeah.
So, do you have any final thoughts on any of the psychic powers, Jason?
Yeah, like the Runes of Battle, we got a lot of good ones in there. The trouble is, Warlocks, I think, only have 2 wounds in the book. So as soon as you miscast or perils,
Perils.
yeah, miscast perils, you are gonna pretty much be dead. So you're kind of risking it a lot. So it's, I mean, luckily with the
And
Farseers,
then you do a whole bunch of mortals to people around you.
And they are cheap. They are cheap. Oh, but that's so painful when you miss. Oh, when you lose your psyker to that, it kills so many things. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So you're right. You
So
do have to be
Warlock.
careful with warlocks. That is a huge risk.
Warlock, 35 points, yeah.
But they are cheap, right? So you could. But the problem too is they don't have the cheap bubble wrap, but they kind of do. You could do guardians or like if you have 60 warp spiders in your opponent's grill, they're not going to be shooting your casters, and you can. And a lot of their spells have 18-inch range, so you can still spread them out so they're not within 6 of each other. So
Yeah.
it's not that crazy. But sorry, keep going.
No, I mean, some of the ones you have that are standard, you have guide that you can put on.
Well, anything.
Anything.
Yeah, you're right. And then, like, if you need that Will of Assyrian, it's an easy charge of only 5. Put it on something to automatically pass morale checks if you know they're going to be screwed. And that's if you don't want to take. Which is the craft world that only you lose 1 model?
I ended.
So if you don't want to go with the Andin, you have a psychic power now that does pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, so you can have your cake and eat it too. You can be like
Correct,
-1.
yeah.
You can pick that 1 unit you don't want to run away. You can cast this power. Now it means that you had to have like written that power in on your army list, depending on the tournament or event you play at. Sometimes you get to pick before the game, sometimes you don't. So you could really assess your opponent and pick the power to best suit your needs. Which is the nice thing about powers. I think a lot of events are going pick your powers per game, the ones that I've gone to anyway. So therefore, like having just access to this, you just choose what you need at the time and see where it goes. So I guess we'll move on to points a little bit. So I don't have much to say on points, just that across the board, it looks like points went down for the most part.
Yep.
I would say, like, on average, you're looking at 10 to 20% cheaper. So if you had a 2,000-point Craft World army before, you're looking at, you probably have an extra unit or 2 you can throw in now. For their points costs, I already said it, the Rangers are freaking disgusting. Swooping Hawks are pretty cheap for what they do. So you have a lot of options. But I think that's the takeaway, is that everything's cheaper now.
Except for the Raid Knight. But his sword got cheaper.
Yeah, so... So does that mean he got cheaper? Yes, Darren. Come on.
Well,
Semantics.
if you take the sword.
But yeah, I don't know if he was necessarily a good choice before, and is he a good choice now? I still don't think so. But I think in general, you're looking pretty strong with an Eldar list. Time will tell whether or not it's up tier with the Astra Militarum or the other stuff, because it is still an elite army. Even though it did go down in points cost, you're still looking at a small force. So, but like a lot of things, there's some really hidden gems, like those Hawks for 130 points for 10. I'm bringing a unit of at least 10 and maybe 2 units of 10 just for 260 points. The amount of tactical flexibility they give you and the amount of damage to things like brimstones and conscripts that it gives you is fantastic.
So Swooping Hawks?
Oh, I think they're winners.
They're only 60 for 10.
No, because their weapon's 7 points.
Oh, okay.
So it puts it up to 13.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that I do have a kind of beef with, is that maybe like Swooping Hawk should be listed as just 13 points, and then their Exarch gets a special weapon, but it is what it is. I'm used to the system now that they're doing, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, Warp Spiders are, with their gun, 18 points a model now.
Yep. Which is not crazy. Like 180 for 10, that's pretty good. You're looking at 5 units for under 2,000, so you could probably get 6 or 7 units in an army, no problem. And if you make them a Latiok, they're -2 to hit. They're not taking a lot of damage. The weird thing is so back when people were playing Ynnari with Warp Spiders, you're probably going to take them in 10, so that when one of them dies, you get like more damage. But I think with the Elatiok, you can do a more MSU approach and bring back the like 18 units of 5, but you don't have enough fast slots for. I think 18 units was too many, but that's irrelevant. Like 9 units of 5, I guess you could say 45, or you could do like 12 units of 5, and then you could take 2 Vanguard detachments to fit them in, which is really not that hard. Or even a patrol for that matter. You could take not a patrol. What's the one with the 6 fast and the 6 troops there? Wait, am I on crack?
Yes, you are.
I'm on crack
Wait, yeah.
right now. Yeah.
6 troops is a brigade.
Sorry, brigade, whatever. But you know what I'm saying. So you could definitely use them to fill out your fast, and it's pretty good. But yeah, Rangers
jet
are
bikes.
120 points for 10, and any sniper that's 120 points for 10, that's like minus a bazillion to hit and has stratagems that can affect them. 30 seems like a must-have. Sorry, go ahead about your bikes.
I was just saying, yeah, Wind Riders. So they're 18 points and then 10 points for either gun you want to put them. So now they're 28 points each. So now, at least for a unit of 3, is under 100 points. So they're almost back to what they were in 7th edition.
Which I think with the rules changes in this edition and the taking with the null deployment, that's fairly appropriate. That's a good cost.
Yeah, they go to their 4-up save, but they have 2 wounds. So,
But like, are you going to take bikes? Time will tell. My gut is no. They're still not hot, but I think bikes were only really good in 7th ed because of the null deploy. Like, they were good all around, but the null deploy meant that they didn't get friggin' pants like turn 1. So, which is a big difference, right? Anything else that seems crazy? But so yeah, you guys can check that out. I guess we're going to move on from this. We have a Q&A, so we're going to go through and answer some of our listener questions. So if you'd like to send a question, you can go on Twitter, tweet at me, tweet at CanHammer, you can email us, canhammer.podcast@gmail.com. You can comment on Instagram. You can go on our Facebook page, facebook.com/CanHammer. It's easy to search. So the first one I want to, pose is from Alex, who we gave a shout out to earlier. What is the most competitive Craftworld or combination of Craftworlds that you have found?
Does Yanari count?
No, it doesn't count because they're not a Craftworld. I think we already covered that. Alatiok's probably number 1. Sandheim and Iandin are up there as well, and the rest are kind of not so hot.
yeah.
Could you see would I see a combination? I don't know. I'm actually thinking, the more I think about it, the more I want Alatiok. If I'm getting out my scatter laser bikes, I am going to do Sandheim. And so time will only tell if those are good. His second part is, does Iandin stand a chance to have a competitive success, Jason?
Just to go solely Iandin?
Yeah, so like, is Iandin a competitive army nowadays? I'm reposing his question.
Yeah, you know what? They'll probably do pretty well if you take a monster match just with the high toughness on everything. I don't think you'll see it too often, though.
I think it's decent. It's not the best, but it's not bad. I think you could make an Iandin list and be very happy. Now, you're going to have to accept that it's a craft world, so Iandin doesn't mean that you're only taking Wraithguard and stuff like that. You could take Guardians, you could take... Like, Eldar are an all-around force, and they're all mixed. And I think... So, I don't know how restrictive you're being with your question on that Iandin. But yeah, if you're just making your whole army Iandin, I think you could be happy. And then finally, are Yanari just better?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yep. Soulburst is just too good.
Soulburst is pretty good. I think if you're going bigger units or some builds, Yanari's better. But some builds... I think my Warp Spider build, I honestly believe Alatiok's better than Yanari. But if you're going a bike-heavy build, Yanari could be better. If you're going... Like... If you're going for... What are they called? Dark Reapers. They're probably better as Yanari. So... It's either Alatiok or Yanari for sure. The rest of them, Yanari's definitely better than all the rest of them. So Ron asks, big blobs of Guardians or MSU?
Ooh, tough question.
I prefer MSU.
I think both. Why can't you do both? Like, you should... I think you should have 1 or 2 big blobs of Iandin Guardians in front of your army to absorb smites or to absorb some alpha strike or to hold an objective. But for the most part, I think MSU. Yeah.
Yeah, like, you're right. You can put the 4-up invuln spell on them.
Stratagem.
And then stratagem. And then there's the spell that gives them +1 to their saves. So they could have a 3-up invuln. And then if you want to have them fearless with that spell, or you take the which one is that?
Iandin.
Yeah, I take Iandin again, and then you're really set with them. They're really going nowhere.
Which is great. And then, 20 of them could go a long way to just protecting your front line, right? So, which is I think it's important to be able to bubble wrap and to be able to say like, oh, you have this combat unit or you have this smite spam. I want to be able to just put something that can absorb that turn one, and I think that both is the correct answer there. Okay, so now we're going to switch over. That was off Twitter. For the most part, those are the only ones that I've seen. So now we're going to switch over to our Facebook questions.
Yeah, so we have a question from Biltan. The Craft World of Biltan is asking us this question.
The entire Craft World. We might have to censor some of these questions and trolling, because I think Biltan got trolled a little bit by some of our more aggressive
Biltan
fans.
asked whether, using the stratagem Fire and Fade, which lets you move an extra time, allows you to disembark and embark in the same turn, and I think there was a long debate about it, and I think the answer is probably no.
No, it says you can't do it in the same turn in the rule book. Now, could you lawyer your way to say yes, it's legal? Yeah, but I believe the intent is no, and I'm not normally an intent guy, but I'm pretty sure it's a no on this one. It's pretty clear in the rule book, but nothing's really clear at all. So yeah, no.
Yeah. Just waiting through some of the less serious questions.
Well, there's the one that I thought was hilarious, which we love our French Canadian listeners, but with the new release of the Codex, will the French Canadians still call it Eldars instead of Eldar? I hope so.
Yes.
I actually hope so. I really hope so. I'm not going to say who said that, but I hope so. I love that. It's so fun. But yeah, they do plural. What is it? Pluralize it. So Eldars.
Yeah.
Just okay with me.
Let's see. Just waiting through the questions.
Yeah, we got a lot of spam. There's a lot of Eldar hate on the internet. We got a lot of spam troll questions. And
when will Dark Eldar get a codex? I don't know. Next year, I guess.
I bet you it's late next year. I'm thinking post or around Adepticon, March, if they get one.
Yep. Will Eldar get any resculpts for some awful old models? Not likely.
It doesn't look likely. That's a weird thing. And like that thing that they re-released the Craftworld book, there is nothing new.
Yep.
It's just a book.
Will people default back to scat bikes and warp spiders? I think we've answered that question. I think
warp spiders.
Competitive choices.
Not really scat bikes, but a maybe.
Jeff Brown at Craft World. What Craft World we see in competitive meta? Which one is the sleeper hit? I think we already answered that one as well.
Yeah, sleeper hits, Iandin.
What is your
Latiak will be obvious.
What's your favorite aspect warrior?
Ooh, this is an interesting question. So, if it was,
I guess
which
stat
one do you,
wise or just fluff wise?
Let's do both. So I'm thinking let's do own. So who asked that question first?
Adam Love.
Okay, so Adam, great question. I'm gonna add a part to it. So start with you, Jason. What's your favorite fluff wise? What's your favorite in game? And which one do you own the most of?
So which aspect I was doing the most of? Well, I actually get a fair amount of Dire Avengers and Warp Spiders. But I've always kind of had a soft spot for the Striking Scorpions.
So Striking Scorpions fluff-wise?
Yeah, definitely fluff-wise. Just love the guy with the giant claw, just from a crab. And his doesn't have a -1 to hit. It is ×2 strength, so it's strength 6, -3, D3 damage. Pretty good. And the fact that they just kind of jump up anywhere.
Okay, and so in game, what's your favorite one?
In game, it's still probably the Warp Spiders.
Okay, and then I guess you own the most Dire Avengers. So Darren, what's your big three?
So I own 0 of all of them.
Okay.
Fluff wise, I like the Banshees the best. Nothing cooler than being charged by a horde of screaming women in boob plate.
I'm pretty sure there's male Banshees, by the way.
I don't think so. I think it's the warrior. I think it's the warrior, the female warrior aspect.
I know there can be female Striking Scorpions. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Maybe somebody can answer that debate for us. I think Banshees are just women, but anyway. And in game, I think Dark Reapers.
Ooh, that's a good choice. That's a really good choice. For me, in game, definitely Warp Spiders. Own the most, definitely Warp Spiders.
Yeah.
My favorite are Swooping Hawks. They're cool. The models are pretty cool. I don't know, it's just something neat about like a whole army of just dudes with wings and las blasters and girls too. There can be girl swooping hawks. So
Bouncing up and down.
I almost gave it to them in game, but they lack something. Like they're cheap, you can spam them, they do some stuff, but there's something lacking from them. This edition, last edition, they were not the best, obviously, but they were right up there. So yeah, that's my pick. Next question.
All right, next question is from Matt Rund. How good do you think the Wraith Lord is, and what do you think is the best loadout?
Jason, you want to take that one?
I'm going to have to take a minute just to look that up here.
Okay, so we'll move on to the next question.
He got a little bit tougher, but I mean, I think you're just taking him if you're taking a Wraith army. But
yeah, he's only stuck with only 4 wounds, unfortunately, so it's not that much. Oh, sorry, that's 4 attacks. He does a 10 wounds.
I was going to say, I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm like, ooh, that's really bad. No, so 10 wounds, healthy amount, T8, awesome, but 4 attacks, so he's not great in combat then.
Yeah, but you can give him 2 guns, so you wouldn't want to give him a sword. You'd want to give him a couple guns, use him as like a monstrous creature firing platform. But the issue is that he doesn't do enough damage at range as like a lot of the other units that are cheaper. That's the big thing with him, so he's not really a good gun platform, but he's survivable. My favorite loadout would probably just be like no sky, nothing that's heavy, so you can keep him moving. I actually don't have I can't answer that. I don't have a favorite loadout. I actually don't like Wraith Lords.
yeah, it'd be really nice if they took 1 wound away, so then and then made it a character.
No, that's stupid. That would never happen.
Come on.
But Jason, you got a loadout for him that you like?
You know what? Probably it would just be cheap. Like keep him with the sword on him. It's all right, but keep the power fists on him. You can toss just a couple flamers on and just bum rush him up the board, I guess. The nice thing is he can tie down some units because he's such high toughness, so they're really only going to wound him on 6.
Yeah, and if he gets in their grill and he's got the flamers, people might not be incentivized to charge him. But yeah, it's a shame. They really missed the mark with Wraith Lords in the last 3 Eldar books in a row. Like, they were awesome in 3rd Ed, and then beyond that, they just have never been a major player. So, next question.
Yeah, next question is, I believe that's it, actually. Last question is not a serious question.
Yeah, so we filtered out a lot of the trolling. Yeah. Everybody hates the Eldar, man. I couldn't believe it. I looked at that post, I'm like, wow, there's 60, no, that's an exaggeration, but there's 60 comments, and I'm like, oh, they're all crap. They're all troll posts.
What's the best model for Tristan Missile to dip?
Yeah, there's a lot of Tristan hate on the internet recently for some reason. Anyway, thanks for listening, guys. Thanks for joining us, Jason. I know that
thanks for having me.
You're across the province from us right now on Jason actually lives down the road from me, but he's in Thunder Bay right now, so it was kind of awesome that you made it for this episode. And then there's Darren. Thanks for usual for joining me and doing all this stuff. So thank you guys for listening. If you want more information about our podcast, our events, or anything we do, go to canhammer.ca. If you want to email us, it's canhammer.podcast@gmail.com, or you can catch us on all the major social media. If you want your question right off on the air, you can do that by just going on Facebook or Twitter and letting us know. We still have a backlog of Pimp My Lists, but we're having, it takes time to go through them and do a meaningful thing. And with these shows going long, with all this new content and topics that are coming out, we're going to get to them eventually. So keep them coming as well. And with that, have a good one, guys.
Good night.